Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, you can start now.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Sadanand. And this course is MPSE 00011. The title of the course is European Union in World Affairs. Okay. And this is as part of the master's program in migration and diaspora studies from Indira Gandhi National Open University, IGNOU. Okay. Today is the fifth class. We already have got 4 classes before. Just very few minutes before I quickly jump into today's class, the things that we are going to teach today, which is Unit 12 and Unit 13. Okay. We started out 4 weeks ago with history and evolution. We talked about how Canada was formed basically from the French and from the British. So that's why they had got a lot of influence, colonial influence, social, cultural, all those assimilated kind of expositions to those twin cultures from European ones, mostly French and British. And we talked about the small population, but it's a huge country. This is the second largest country in the world next to Russia. That means in terms of area and territory, this is the second largest. But in the Western Hemisphere, Canada is the largest one. The population as per 2024, which is last year, it was about 45 crores population, which means it's about 1/3 of the population of India. But I think in terms of area, I've been to many provinces of Canada, not all, probably 4 times, maybe 5 times bigger than the size of India. And the population is 1/3 of India. So you can imagine. And most of the people, they are concentrated in 2 or 3 provinces, namely Ontario, Quebec, British Columbia, etc. If you go to Manitoba, if you go to Saskatchewan, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, hardly anybody is there. Alberta, I mean, there are only 2 big cities there, Edmonton and Calgary. And if you go to the territories, Northwest, Yukon, etc., there are hardly any people except those Inuits and Nunavut's and the Canadian Indians, the native Indians. The currency I told you about, the common currency. Sorry. I talked about Canada thing. I'm sorry. In European Union, it came out in 1993. And the common currency is euro. And I have also said that after a couple of years, particularly in the post-Cold War, they came up with a common currency, common visa, which is Schengen visa. That means with one visa, let us say you apply to French embassy, okay? You have a conference in Paris or in Strasbourg, someplace, okay? Then you apply for a French embassy. You got a visa from the French embassy, but you are not getting a visa for French visiting France. You are getting a Schengen visa, which is a common visa, which is a EU visa kind of. And you can visit literally all those 27 countries. You can take a train from France, for example, Paris. You can go to Munich, you can go to Frankfurt, you can go to Amsterdam, go to Copenhagen, Stockholm, Vienna, I mean, all those places all around, okay? Because this is part of this one network. And I can tell you one thing from my own personal experiences. Traveling by train in Europe, within Europe, is really a delightful experience. Every train is very much on time, and the facilities inside are much, much nicer. Even if you don't have a reserved ticket, you can get it instantly. People are very nice, very friendly. They do understand English. And I think they're very helpful. And the other interesting thing I found in Europe traveling was that the same train with the same bogie and same compartment at different times, the prices are vary. It's not like one single uniform price. So if you're traveling, let us say a little bit late in the night or early in the morning, maybe the prices will be much, much lower, even for a first class or a business class, things like that. So maybe in future, if you're planning a trip to Europe, I can give you some travel tips, how you can travel around and what are the places you can get some economical accommodation, etc., etc. As I said, European Union, within that country, there is a lot of cultural, ethnic, geographical affinities. You have robust relationship with literally all countries in the world: USA, China, Russia, Canada, India, Saudi Arabia, Japan, Southeast Asia, East Asia, literally all parts. They're also strong in 2 components, important power that we talk about, namely hard power and soft power. France, for example, they produce Rafale jets. Just this morning, I was reading the newspaper. India has ordered to buy 26 more Rafale jets, which is one of the most fighter jets, very sophisticated ones. Okay? Soft power also, you must have read about the European food, French cuisine, Italian cuisine, Portuguese cuisine, German cuisine, the movies, Italian cinema, French cinema, German cinema. So I'm just giving you some examples. They also they have also done a nice combination, nice hybrid or fusion of Indian diasporic experience like yoga, like the Indian food, the Indian music, etc. So they have blended together very nicely. Literature, education, they have a lot of educational collaboration with many countries in the world. So it is very much interdisciplinary and also intercontinental. So it's very pan-European for that chance. There is a big scholarship that is being available for certain countries of visiting Europe, which is, I think some of you may be knowing it, called Erasmus Mundus program. You can get your scholarship, sorry, your tuition fee free of cost. Maybe they will take care of the air passage plus accommodation, etc., etc. Most people are Christians. In fact, today, as I'm talking to you, the funeral arrangements are taking place in Rome, in Vatican City, in Italy, the head of the Roman Catholics. Okay, so basically 71% people overall in European Union, they are Christians. 45% people are Catholics, of whose head the Pope is there, okay, who is no more now. Now they are going to elect a new Pope in a couple of days. 11% are Protestants, 9.6 are Eastern Orthodox, and 24% have identified themselves as no religion. But when I was in Germany, I did go to a lot of mosques for my own prayers. I've seen even Hindu temples in different places in Europe. I've seen Gurudwara also. So I have seen synagogues, the people where the Jewish people go. So basically, they have got people from all religious denominations, and everybody has the right and the freedom to practice their own individual religion and faith. Okay, so there are 27 countries, as I said. Unit 2 quickly, we talk about different forms of integration, federalism, neorealist theories, as you all know by Kenneth Walsh, Morgenthau, etc. They talk about power, national interest, survival, self-help, anarchic societies, and how European countries, all the countries, in different forms and shapes, okay, they try to adhere to the neorealist model. The federalism models where you have got union, you have got states, okay. They have got interdependent model, confederation model. You're giving a lot of things basically to the states, but at the same time, the levers of power lies with the center or with the union. Okay. Unit 3 quickly, we talk about different components of European Union in terms of legislative branches, European Council, Council of Ministers, European Commission, European Court, Customs Union, etc., etc. And there are different departments and portfolios, and they take care of that. Unit 4 quickly, we talk about decision-making process. Mostly it is done through consultation, dialogue among and within the different partners, all the 27 countries, the assent procedure, how to assent a particular bill, which is being discussed once and twice in the council, cooperation procedures between the center and also the provinces. The cooperation model, the co-decision procedure, the decisions are not made solo or being monopolized by one particular entity. It is done in collaboration between the executive and the legislature. And the double majority I talked about, not only majority of the European Union countries have to support a particular measure, but also majority of the population. So that is very, very important. Let me give you one quick example comparison. Remember when Donald Trump got elected, about 5 years ago, 2018, okay, 2016, Trump got elected. He got majority of electoral college votes, but in terms of the popular vote, he got less. Hillary Clinton got more, but in terms of electoral college votes, he got more. Okay, so he got elected, and which is perfectly constitutional, perfectly legitimate, perfectly valid under India, under American Constitution. In America, number of presidents, they have got less number of votes nationally in a popular vote, but they have got more electoral college vote because a lot of these important states like California, New York, New Jersey, Ohio, Michigan, etc., Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, If you win some of these key states, Florida, Georgia, you win it. This time, I think there is a difference between Trump 1 and Trump 2. And the difference is this time, Trump 2, second time around when he won, he got majority of the states votes. That means electoral college votes. He also got popular votes nationally. So if you count the votes got by Kamala Harris vis-a-vis Donald Trump, Trump got more votes. So this time people think his victory margin looks much more consensual, also less controversial, and much more genuine kind of things, which is a very national verdict kind of things. Okay, but anyway, that is America. But the point I'm trying to make is in European Union, the double majority means you have to have a majority of the population taking all 27 countries as a whole in a cumulative way, okay, and also the majority of the states. So that means it is a very tough, steep climb, like an amendment procedure. You need 2/3 majority in both houses, plus the 3/4 in the states, which is very difficult. Like, for example, again, going back to Trump, I'm sorry to being tempted to talk about America. Trump is thinking to contest for the third time. Under American current constitution, a person can only be president for 2 terms. He cannot be president for a third term. The last time a president was made in America, which is Franklin D. Roosevelt, which was before World War II. At that time, there was no limit. You can contest once, twice, thrice, 4 times, okay? But after 1949, there was an amendment that meant a president can be president only for 8 years, 4 plus 4. That's it. So now I think the current second term, Trump is ending in 2028. Now the question is, can he contest for the third term? He says he would like to. Maybe he would like to change the constitution or bring about an amendment. But if he does, it will be not impossible, but I would say it will be very, very difficult. Because again, as I said, you need the 2/3 in the Senate, 2/3 in the House, and also 3/4 in the entire states out of the 50 states, which is not impossible, but it looks very far-fetched, okay? So that's about the double majority things. Unit 5, quickly, we talk about Single European Act, single market, how the single market in Europe, it brought about a lot of tangible benefits to each of the EU countries, free movement of people, of goods, of services between one to the other one. German, you can see, I mean, if you look at the borders of, I mean, when I look at India and I look at Europe, like from here, if I go to Bengal or Odisha, probably if this would have been Europe, I will be crossing 4, 5, 6 countries. Okay. So within 2 hours, 3 hours, you can go to from Germany to France, to Belgium, to Netherlands, to Austria. So all those things are connected. Okay. So free movement of people, free movement of goods, free movements of services, removal of barriers, bringing down the prices, low airfares, mobility, enhanced competition with other non-European Union markets. So, you know, when there is a competition, of course, the quality also gets much better. Making EU as an attractive location for foreign investors, they will be interested to put more money into it. For example, let us say you are a billionaire from Japan, okay? So for you, you may be looking at EU as a very attractive proposition where you can put your money and maybe you can reap a big harvest out of that. So that's the things in Unit 5. Unit 6, we talk about some of the important treaties like Maastricht Treaty, Amsterdam Treaties, Nice Treaties. Basically, in each of these treaties, it is like a one step forward, okay, in terms of granting different rights, different powers to the and creating new positions. For example, in the Treaty of European Constitution, a new post for foreign minister was created. The permanent president of European foreign minister, he was elected on a rotational basis of 2.5 years. The fundamental rights of the people were enshrined in a particular code in part 2 of the Constitution. So basically, I think a lot of these new rights were codified and was changed from time to time at that time. Unit 7, we talk about economic and monetary unions, how European Union, through institutional measures, through different statutes, different codes, they try to bring about a genuine and a very viable economic and monetary union. And some of the examples of economic and monetary union were free trade agreement, trade liberalization, customs union, trade liberalization for common commercial policy, common market, which also includes free market, free movement, economic union, common monetary and fiscal policy, and eventually the whole intention was to create a political union, if it is possible. Okay, sometimes they converge, but sometimes they don't. Okay, they don't agree on everything, and there is divergence also. But the whole intention is, the vision is to have a political union of sorts among and within European Union to bring about certain kind of commonalities, certain amount of complementarity, certain amount of consensus. Okay. They also try to bring about benefits of euro, because euro is going to give you a more muscle and heft to the economic and monetary union, to make Europe more competitive and more dynamic, to create more employment opportunities and growth within the participating countries, those people who took euro as an example, to make it as a hard currency like American dollar or like Chinese yuan, etc., to contribute economic growth and currency. The only downside, the people who were opposed to the euro were that it might affect national interest, it might affect national sovereignty, it might affect the sovereign decision of any particular independent sovereign countries. So those are some of the criticisms. But I think overall, the consensus was euro is a good idea, having one single currency for all those countries. And in comparison, when we look at ASEAN, for example, okay, they don't have a single currency. You go to Indonesia, you go to Malaysia, you go to Philippines, you go to Singapore, they have got different currencies. Okay, so that creates complication, because if you go just like Singapore to Malaysia, you can drive in half an hour, 1 hour. But again, you need to change into the local currency of that country. In SAARC, for example, India has its own currency. The only thing I found was when I went to a couple of years ago, I went to Kathmandu for a conference in Nepal. They have a Nepalese currency, but they also accepted Indian currencies. I mean, the shopkeepers and different malls, etc. In Bangladesh, they have a different currency like Taka. In Sri Lanka, different countries have different currencies. Okay, I wish SAARC, ASEAN, GCC, and many other countries, I wish they can also help and forge a common currency that will be really helpful for a person who is traveling to multiple countries in the same histories, etc. Unit 8, we talk about some of the important member states like France, like Germany, for example. And I talked about the history of Germany before World War II, during World War II, then how Germany got defeated, then how Germany was divided into West Germany and East Germany, how West Germany became a part of the Western Alliance, the Atlantic Alliance, became a part of the North Atlantic Alliance, NATO, and East Germany became a part of Eastern Europe, basically a part of then Soviet Union, the Communist Empire. Okay, and after the end of Cold War in 1990, again Germany got reunified into one Germany. There is no East and West, and there is only one capital in Berlin of Germany. Okay, so a lot of these things it changed. Okay, in European Union, and as I said, for a couple of years in the early 90s, you were using both the currency. If you go to any particular German country, German cities, they used the German currency, which is Dutch mark, DM. They're also using, so if you are buying a t-shirt, if you are buying a sunglass or something, so there are two price tags for hanging. I remember that. One is the Dutch mark, DM price, and one is the euro. So you can pay either Dutch mark, the German currency, or you can pay euro. But after a couple of years, when I went again, the DM is gone. So it is only euro. So whatever the price is, just you pay for it, okay, and you get it. German unification I talked about, okay, free market economy, the Rhine capitalism, and different places in from Hamburg to Heidelberg to Würzburg, to different places in Munich, etc. I think how they have got industrial hubs, etc., being created. The population of Germany, I mean, if you say it's not a very big one, like 8.3 crores as per 2024 calculation. France is 6.8 crores, okay? But again, they are important countries within European Union, and but other countries are nevertheless very, very important. Even a small, tiny country like Portugal, they're also important. Turkey, for example, is a very interesting country. They have a ethnic, multicultural kind of things. Okay, that's a very important countries also. It is again Unit 9, Common Agricultural Policy. They talked about how different terms of agricultural productivity, ensure a fair standard of living, stabilize agricultural markets, ensure the availability of food supplies, and how the Common Agricultural Policy, CAP, it was very much instrumental in fomenting coordination and cooperation within and among the European Union countries. A single farm payment, a strengthened rural development policy, reduction of direct payment, and from time to time there has been enlargement of the members within there. There are also they take active collaboration with the WTO, World Trade Organization. Unit 10, I quickly talked about common foreign and security policies, relationship with US, USSR, Russia, China, Japan. I think all of these countries, they have got good, robust relations. Of course, a lot of these countries, they are part of the G7 group of countries and G20 group of countries. Many things have happened since post-Cold War, the Gulf War, the Iraq War, global war on terrorism after post 9/11, war in Afghanistan, the famine in Africa, the Atlantic Alliance, the UN peacekeeping operations, NATO, the disbanding of Warsaw Pact, currently, if you look at in the last 2-3 years, the Ukraine issue. So I think a lot of these issues that has really engulfed the European Union. The common foreign and security policy to safeguard Union's common values, interest, and independence, strengthen the security of the European Union, preserve peace and strengthen the national security of individual countries, promote international cooperation, develop and consolidate democracy and the rule of law, respect for human rights. Rule of law means what? Rule of law means predominance of law. Okay, so prevalence of justice over other things. Okay, if somebody violates the law, he or she has to pay a particular price. Strengthen democracy, minority rights, ethnic rights have to be preserved because you know that it's a very multicultural, multi-ethnic place, like most part of the world these days. Okay, so you have to guarantee the minority rights no matter which part of European Union you live in. Encourage regional cooperation, contribute to the prevention of the settlement of conflict in a peaceful way, very much like the United Nations. Contribute to more effective international coordination, strengthen international cooperations, fight against common things like armed proliferation, terrorism, cyber terrorism, human trafficking, trafficking of drugs, etc., etc. Okay, promote good governance. Okay, because governance is a very, very big issue. Okay, so there are certain countries which are not at the same level. Okay, when we talk governance, we talk about good governance versus bad governance. So I think they are trying to promote and develop and usher in good governance. Unit 11, I talked about enlargement of European Union, how it started out way back in 57 with just 6 founding members. Then slowly and surely over the subsequent decades, the number grew up. Okay, population, the GDP, the changed political dimension. Okay, diversity, heterogeneity. Some people say diversity is good. Some people say diversity is not good. So you know there are two sides of the argument: homogeneity versus heterogeneity, both social as well as cultural, etc. The dominance of the 6 states. Some people they resent that countries like Germany, France, etc. I think they dominate the whole thing. Just like in SARC, a lot of people they say that India is like a big brother. They try to impose, they try to be dominant, etc. Okay, so there are arguments both for and against that kind of logic. Okay, the national interest of individual countries, how that is going to be addressed. Okay, and the security challenges, particularly in the aftermath of 9/11, the terrorist incidents in many places in the world. Okay, how European Union they take care of that, and also the admission of the new countries. They would like to join European Union, Belarus, Moldova, Ukraine, etc. And you know there are examples like, for example, Ukraine. Very quickly, Russia do not want Ukraine to be a part of NATO, Ukraine to be a part of European Union, but Ukraine very much wants to be a part of European Union, to be a part of NATO. So there are arguments both for and against. Okay, and still it has not been decided whether to include some of these new countries or not. Okay, so I think these are the things which we discussed. Today, I think I will talk about, for example, European Union and vis-a-vis particular states like US, Russia, China, Japan. As far as USA is concerned, of course, USA, as you know, I mean, some people can argue that this is no longer the hegemonic power, no longer the dominant power in the world, but nevertheless, it is still it spreads its wings. I mean, as there is a old saying, if America sneezes, the rest of the world catches cold. I think to a large extent, that analogy is still very much true because it is a very huge country, it is a superpower, uh, a huge military industrial complex. So whatever decision, like look at Trump, okay, whether he does something crazy or does something otherwise, okay, does have its implication. Look at the tariff issue. Look at the way his response to a lot of the issues in the world, okay, and he has been there only for what 3 months in the second term. So I think America does matter, okay. European Union, he doesn't care, okay. He doesn't want to give a single penny to the NATO countries, okay. For him, Europe is a very low priority. Okay, so it remains to be seen whether Donald Trump in this term is going to revise some of his opinions or some of his policies toward EU. Okay, so but in broad terms, America's policy toward EU has been promotion of peace and stability and democracy, contributing to the expansion of world trade and closer economic relations, building bridges across the Atlantic. You know, Atlantic Alliance was one of the bedrock of relations between Europe and America since the end of World War II, since 1945. Okay, I mean, some people can say that was the beginning of a world order. You can call it maybe like a liberal world order, and that continues even today. But today we see some of the unshackling of that liberal international order, the way it was perceived, like in the Yalta conference, okay, with Stalin, with FDR, with Churchill, etc., etc. Also, I think in terms of foreign policy cooperation, we see convergence and divergence. I told you one example, the relations with Russia, the relation with Putin, for example, what is going on in Ukraine with Zelensky. There is a total divergence of opinions between EU and America, and I don't know how things are going to be in the next few weeks or few months. Okay, but overall, I think both the countries, both the states, EU and USA, they believe in rule of law, they believe in democratic pluralism, freedom of expression, faith and belief, judicial independence, respect for human rights, negotiated social development, free market economy, etc., etc. Okay, economic relations, EU, USA basically occupies a big chunk of European Union market, about 40%. Okay, they have got robust relations of foreign direct investment in many of these countries in European Union. Talking about Russia, this has been, you can say, like a casualty of East-West conflict that we broadly saw during the Cold War between 1945 to 1990. And we saw in the division when World War II ended in 1945 how NATO was created, North Atlantic Alliance, mostly by US, Canada, and all the West European countries on the one hand, and then Soviet Union, USSR, and all the East European countries, the communist countries. Okay, so this NATO and Warsaw. After the end of Cold War, the Warsaw Pact, the communist group of countries that got disbanded. Of course, Soviet Union also got disintegrated. Okay, the Cold War, post Cold War, I talked about it, how things changed from 90 to 91. Okay, and you know about the last president of USSR, Soviet Union, whose name was Mikhail Gorbachev, and he was also the first one at the end of Cold War. Okay, so he was the last and he was the first. And during that time, if you remember, Gorbachev basically coined two important terms. One is called perestroika, one is called glasnost. Okay, so when he started talking about it initially, people did not pay that much attention, but later on it proved to be very decisive in ending the Cold War and also in disintegrating the old Soviet Union. Glasnost means openness. You open up Russia, okay, to all free market economies, okay, let it compete, okay. And perestroika means economic restructuring, okay, because it was under the communist systems. Basically, it was with a one single entity, one single kind of authoritarian kind of things, okay. Brezhnev, Stalin's times, Khrushchev's times, etc., etc. So Gorbachev wanted some flexibility, some new dynamics into it. Okay, he got a lot of opposition, but at the end, this perestroika and glasnost philosophy, it got prevailed, okay? Thereafter, post Gorbachev in the late 90s, we got Boris Yeltsin as the president. Then, of course, Vladimir Putin in between Dmitry Medvedev, he became the president. Again, Putin has been there for the last 25 years, okay? And we see broadly, I think, a spirit of equality and partnership between Russia and European Union. And they do indulge on a regular basis with political dialogue, with trade, financial cooperation, science and technology, education and training. When I was in Moscow as a visiting professor in 2017, I met not of students in my class who happened to be from different European countries. And they're also speaking very fluent Russian. Okay, but of course, the medium of instruction in my university was in English. But I could see that they're very bright students and they liked Moscow, they liked Russian educational systems. And so I think there is a very vibrant educational partnership between Russia and also different European Union countries. Okay, space cooperation, the nuclear cooperation, transport, cultural kind of things. There's a lot of discussions about integrating into a common European Union. On the Ukraine issue, however, which is a very recent one in the 2-3 years ago, I think there has been a divergence of opinions because European Union countries feel that Russia should withdraw from Crimea, from Donbass, from all those areas that it has conquered during this last 23 years. Let Ukraine be Ukraine. Let Ukrainian people decide the sort of government. If they like Zelensky, that's fine, okay? So, but Russia wants Ukraine as part of this kind of old Soviet Union kind of things, as a bulk of like a safeguard. Okay? And Russia do not want Ukraine to be a NATO country because that way it will be much closer to Russia. It might pose a territorial threat to Russia or something like that. Okay, so there is a divergence of opinions in terms of policies on the Ukraine issue between European Union and NATO. Let us see. I think there are some trial balloons are being floated by Donald Trump, by many countries in the world to have some peace negotiations. Let us see how it concludes, whether it will be on Putin's term or Zelensky term, or there will be a midway, some give and take, some compromises. So let us see how it ends. Okay, there are 4 common spaces: the common economic space, space and external security, research and educational things, political security. So I think, broadly speaking, I think because the Russian people ethnically and culturally very much, I think, aligned with Europeans, I personally thought that that should be much more collaborative kind of commonalities within the two in terms of ethnic things. But again, on policy issues, particularly on this particular one on Ukraine, that has really created a lot of distrust, I would say, or maybe a lot of cleavages. Okay, but it is not insurmountable. I think it is manageable. So I think let us see how the next weeks and months are going to step out, particularly on the Ukraine issue between Russia and European Union. On China, this is interesting. Till 1995, I think the human rights issues, economic trade relations, multilateralism, China's interest in Middle East, in Africa, East Asia, sectoral dialogues, energy issues, climate change, environment, sustainable developments. I think a lot of those issues are also very, very important. Particularly if you think at China, for example, in the post Mao Zedong era, particularly after post Deng Xiaoping, if you look at the last 20-30 years, during Jiang Zemin, during Hu Jintao, and the current president, Xi Jinping, I think China, quote unquote, under peaceful rise, they've been trying to forge new partnership, etc. One part of that game plan, if you would like to say, or like a grand strategy of China, it will be like that one world, one belt, one road initiatives, BRI, okay, Belt and Road Initiative along the Silk Road, okay, and trying to be much more assertive, much more muscular, whether it is Taiwan issue or Hong Kong issue, South China issues, okay, having a military base in Myanmar or Sri Lanka or Maldives, okay. So I think China is trying to do that, okay. But I think to be fair to China, at least since the beginning of 21st century, European Union and China broadly they have agreed on all the things that United Nations Millennium Development Goal (MDG) they talked about, and later on the SDG, Sustainable Development Goal. Just a very quick recap. I think a lot of you probably know that the MDG was created by United Nations Millennium Development Goal 2000, and the target was 2015, which is already over. I think almost all of these things has been realized, has been taken care of. And the 8 MDGs, Millennium Development Goals, which is also one of the cornerstone and bedrock of the relations between China and EU, are the following: eradicating extreme poverty and hunger, achieving universal primary education. I think that's very, very important. Promoting gender equality and empowering women empowerment issue. That was another important issue under MDG. Reducing child mortality, improving maternal health, in different countries, in Asia, in Africa, Latin America, and many places. Combating HIV, AIDS, malaria, and other communicable diseases. And you can add the pandemics also, including COVID-19. Ensuring environmental sustainability and developing a global partnership for development. Okay, so these are all 8 things under MDG, which is Millennium Development Goal, that was adopted by United Nations in the year 2000, and that the target year was 2015. Okay, and I think a lot of these things has been realized. Okay, now let us move on to SDG. That was also another brainchild of United Nations, that was adopted in 2015, and the agenda is till 2030. Today is what? 2025. So we still have got 5 years to go. But I think again, lot of the things, lot of the items and agenda within SDG, Sustainable Development Goal, has been realized. And what are those 17 goals? So that was 8. This is 17. Number 1, no poverty. Okay. Nobody should die out of hunger and poverty. Okay. Still there is there in sporadic ways. But I think overall, if you look at it, the government in various ways and forms, they're taking care of the social welfare measures. Zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality. This is again a repeat and a replication of MDG. Clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure. That is very, very important. Reduced inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, climate change negotiations. It took place from Kyoto Protocol to Paris Accord to Rio de Janeiro, to many places. Okay, life below water, lot of the marine products, marine resources, aquatic resources. Life on land, peace, justice, and creating strong, sustainable institutions and partnership for the goals. Okay, so I think these are all part of the SDGs. SDG still, as I said, it was adopted in the year 2015 by United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, and the target date is 2030, which is still 5 years. I think if you closely, if you think about it, I believe most of the things has been taken care of, and a lot of these things has been addressed. Okay, so that is China. In terms of Japan, Japan is a very interesting country. I spent, of course, a long time in Japan as a professor in Japan. Very quickly at the end of World War II, when Japan was a defeated nation, Japan, in a very tactical way, they adopted a policy. They called it Yoshida Doctrine. Yoshida was the prime minister. So he called it a very pacifist policy. Okay, so Japan came under the nuclear security upgrade of United States of America, because US was the victor. America had a military base in different parts of Japan. Okay? And for Japan, they were not allowed to have any offensive defense or anything because of the history of the Red Army during World War II. They conquered many places in Southeast Asia. They created a lot of havoc. In fact, they came all the way close to Singapore, to Myanmar, to many places. Okay, so but Japan took advantage of that one, because you asked us to disarm. Okay, So, okay, we are disarming, okay, and we are following a pacifist policy. But what they did was, which is a very smart policy on the Japanese part way back in late 1940s, early 50s, was they put all eggs in economic basket. They really hardworking people. They wanted to rebuild Japanese society from the scratch because most of the big cities, okay, they are totally devastated and destroyed, including Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Tokyo, Osaka, all the places, okay. And you see the rise of Sumitomo, Toyota, Mitsubishi, the successful culmination of the Tokyo Olympic Games in 1964. So Japan was basically on a roll at that particular times, okay. Uh, and this thing continued until 80s, okay. But when things go too good for a country, again, this balloon, it bursts, okay. Then Japan, in the year 1991, when the first Gulf War took place, okay, when Iraq attacked Kuwait, at that point of time, a lot of people were very angry, a lot of Western countries with Japan, that basically Japan is not putting the man or the sweat or the blood into it, not sending any soul. But Japan said, well, what can we do? Okay, you the countries in the world who won in World War II, you asked us to disarm, okay? So under Article 9, under self-defense force, we have just got few police forces here and there. We don't have any army, we don't have any defense, okay? We cannot do that. All the way we can do is to write a check. And it was called a checkbook diplomacy. And since then, a new term came up. Is Japan a normal country, quote unquote? And what is a normal in international relations? Normal means a country that also discharges its duties, its responsibilities, okay, in a very tangible way, okay. And some people felt that Japan is basically a being very opportunistic countries, okay. But Japan, I think, if you look at the overall the track record, they've been very generous. For example, look at India. They have got a very robust relations with India on a personal basis. Shinzo Abe, when he was the prime minister, he had good relation with Dr. Manmohan Singh, and also later on with Sri Narendra Modi, who is the current prime minister of India. We had got good relations with all Japanese prime ministers. Okay, whether it is Ishiba, who is currently the prime minister, Fukuda, with Yasuhiro Mori, with Junichiro Koizumi. I can give you many, many names. Okay, in Japan, interesting thing is every 2-3 years you have a new prime minister. Okay, but the commonality is they have good relations with India and with all these European Union countries. They don't want to enter into any kind of controversial things. And Japan also gives a lot of generous economic aid through the two areas, through two outlets. One is ODA, Official Development Assistance. ODA, Official Development Assistance. It gives through ODA to assistance to all the Southeast Asian countries, to Africa, many places. India, they give aid, like all the underground metro system in Delhi. It is being financed by Japanese ODA, okay, Japanese money, Japanese yen, okay, Japanese technology, okay. The anti-polio eradication drive, okay, the forestation drives in Kanakpura in Karnataka, okay, the bullet train services which is being introduced between Mumbai and Ahmedabad, okay, the freight corridor service between Mumbai and Delhi, okay, and maybe Mumbai to Kolkata, okay. So you will see many of these things, they are being created, okay, under Japanese ODA, under a soft loan you can pay back in 99 years, okay, with a nominal amount, okay. They also pay a lot of money through JICA, Japan International Cooperation Agencies. So Japan does provide a lot of this aid through ODA and JICA to all the European Union countries. Of course, they are very affluent for the most part, comparable to South Asia or Africa. But nevertheless, Japan does provide a lot of financial aid through ODA, Official Development Assistance, and also through JICA and other agencies. Okay, so please be mindful of that. Okay. Unit 13, India and UK, okay, sorry, EU. India is the largest partner of EU, is the biggest source of FDI, major contributor to development aid, important source of technologies, because India, many people would say we are a superpower of sorts, particularly in ITC or ITC, information technology communication, okay, and in all of those related areas. We have a large-scale diaspora, Indian diaspora in many countries in Europe. You go to Germany, you go to France, you go to Netherlands. I've been to many countries. Wherever you go, you ask for an Indian restaurant, be assured you will get one. You need Kerala Ayurveda, you will get it. You need yoga centers, you will get it. Okay. You need herbal, you get it. Okay. So in many different forms and shapes, okay, Indian music, Indian literature, books translated of Tagore, of Kautilya, etc., all available in all European languages in any major universities within Europe. Okay. So India's soft power is very much evident in all of these European countries. Okay. India and EU, they are members of G7 and G20 just 2 years ago. When we had this G20 conference, the EU commissioner was here. India was, of course, hosting it in Delhi, and we had got good relations with EU. So we do it mostly through dialogue and consultation. So overtly, we don't have any issues of confrontation between EU and India. We have got people-to-people contact, the cultural contact, the trade, investment, education. Many universities in Europe, they have got collaborations with Indian universities and also vice versa. Under part of the India's new education policy, NEP 2020, we are also trying to set up campuses outside, like in Abu Dhabi, like in Tanzania, and maybe in a couple of years, you will see campuses in England, in France, in Spain, and Netherlands, and Sweden, and all of those places. Okay. So we are bringing in people, cultures. Okay. India and European Union, they also take part very actively in PKO. PKO is for peacekeeping operations, particularly in countries in Africa and in the war-prone countries. In trade, in FDI, foreign direct investments, we take part in that one. There are, of course, issues between EU and India. I must say that issues of non-proliferations, issue on the policy toward the neighbors, on combating terrorism. India's membership on United Nations Security Council as a permanent member, which India has been demanding for a long, long time. So India hopes that all these European countries, including the permanent members, Great Britain and France, should come forward and they should publicly support India's bid for permanent membership of the United MPSE. Okay. There are some challenges like absence of political will, very few officials in European Commission. They have speciality on India, so that is another lacuna. Dispersal of decision-making process in EU is very difficult to know who is the right person to talk to. So there is no single window policy. Differing perception and amidst shared values, lack of PR, public relations in India, on EU. And also, I think if you look at the current world situation in terms of geopolitics, geoeconomics, and geostrategy, it is in a state of flux. So in a multipolar world, okay, it's very difficult to side with one side or the other without knowing how things are going to step out 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, in the short term, in the intermediate term, and in the long term. Okay? The North-South divide, the bilateral issues versus multilateral issues. So whether we should pay more attention to bilateral relations or multilateral relations. The China factor, the Ukraine factor, the Russia factor, Putin factor, Trump 2 factors. Okay, so I can keep on discussing about all of those things. Okay, so I think India and European Union, basically, I think overall, if you look at it, I think we have got a very robust relationship. We don't have any overtly any adversarial kind of thing, but we need more support, both in tangible forms and also in very explicit, demonstrable forms from EU on particularly important issues that faces India, or as India aspires to be a rising power, as an emerging power, or as our Prime Minister says, we want to be the leader of the world, like Vishwa Guru or Vishwa Mitra or Vishwa Bandhu, because we have also done a lot. Just one example, during the COVID crisis, not many countries in the world, they came forward to help people with the COVID vaccines. But thanks to India, although we are not very rich and affluent, we had a large heart. We did provide support through Covaxin, through Covishield, and you know that. And we provided help to all the countries in the world, in South Asia, in East Asia, in Africa, in many parts. I think people do appreciate that. Whenever there is a natural disaster of some sort in some places, we do provide. Just the other day, you saw when there was this earthquake in Myanmar or in Nepal, India is one of the rare countries that immediately provides whatever relief it can. Okay, so I think India also wants some quid pro quo, like we have been so nice to you, we have been helpful to you over a period of years. We believe in peace, in justice, in rule of law, etc. there is a lot of convergence of interest, a lot of commonalities. So you guys, you also need to help us, you need to cooperate and collaborate. So I think overall, I think it's in a good shape and hopefully it will improve better. So I think that's all I have to say in today's class, okay? So I think things are going well so far. I think basically the whole idea is to understand the basic nuances, the basic thrust of what we're talking about without going to the nitty-gritty details. If we note the big picture, I think that really helps, okay? So very quickly, anybody has got any quick comments or any questions quickly?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you have any view about the North Korea and the relation between EU and the USA? And also, using your experience, I know that you have lived in many countries.
Yeah.
What do you think about the communist countries and the democracy countries?
Yeah.
The relation between them.
Yes. Domingo.
And the last one, India will join NATO any day.
No.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Okay. Let me take your second question first. Okay. Before I go to the first question. India cannot be a member of NATO. It's not a part of European countries. Okay. European circuit. Okay. But there is also a term called non-NATO ally. Okay. Pakistan used to be a non-NATO ally. I mean, you get certain privileges, you get certain advantages. Okay. Being a non-NATO ally, you get some economic stimulus, etc. Whether India will be branded as a non-NATO ally, or whether India would like to be part of the military alliances, because India has a good track record of maintaining and sustaining non-alignment movement. Okay, although it is not in the same shape like before, but still, India is considered to be a leading country of non-alignment movement now. So I don't think India is going to be, of course, it cannot be a member of NATO, and I don't think India will also like to be a member of the non-NATO group also. Okay? But having said that, sort of NATO alliance or non-NATO alliance, India will try to be a part of this big network in a good fulcrum of relationship with both the countries. Now, going back to your first question, Domingo, about this thing, the North Korean things. I mean, there are certain leaders in the world. If you look at the top leaders, okay, from FDR to Harry Truman to Churchill to Nehru to, Marcos, Kenyatta, Nyerere, Nasser, I think all the countries, you can divide basically them into two categories. One is like risk taker, they take risk, okay? And one is like risk averse. They are a little bit hesitant to take any risk because risk can go both ways. It can click, it can flop, okay? As far as North Korea is concerned, and the present leader, and the leader is Kim Jong-un, okay? He is basically a risk taker. He likes to take risks, okay? Whether this risk is going to take that country forward or backward, I don't know. My guess is, my own personal guess is, it is not going to help North Korea either in the short term or long term. Yes, it has got few nuclear weapons. We don't know how many, maybe 5, 6, 7, whatever, okay? And they always threaten countries like South Korea, Japan, who are in the immediate periphery in the neighborhood, okay? But they also should remember they are having a very severe economic crisis, severe economic crunches. In today's world, okay, in an interdependent world, okay, you cannot survive by yourself. You don't have enough food materials, you have got enough things, okay? So I think North Korea should be very careful in terms of its rhetoric, in terms of missile testing, because nuclear bomb cannot make you overnight a global power of sorts, okay? You need many things to do with that, okay? So I think on North Korea things, okay, we don't know how Trump has a personal good relations with the Kim Jong-un, the North Korean dictator. When he was the first term, he met the North Korean leader, as you know, in Singapore, okay? But let us see, how he deals with that, okay? So that is an important issue. I think Trump is going to have a lot of issues. As far as the European Union is concerned, of course, they would like to have a non-proliferation world, countries in the world with less number of nuclear weapons, less countries with nuclear weapons. But currently, as you know, many countries in the world, they have got nuclear weapons. Those original 5 countries, they are already there. Great Britain, Russia, China, England, United Kingdom, and France. Then India and Pakistan. Then Israel, okay, and North Korea. And maybe down the road, some other countries, they might also go the nuclear way. Iran may be there, maybe South Korea, maybe Japan. We don't know. Okay. So the whole idea is to reduce the numbers, okay, in terms of both quantity and quality, okay, in terms of both the velocity of it, okay. So let us see how it goes out, okay. So on North Korea, I think we have to wait for a couple of months to see how the president of USA is taking an action on that one. European Union, I think they will basically see and they are watching what America is going to do about in North Korea. But currently their hands are full with many issues in Ukraine, with Gaza, on many other, the tariff issues. There are many, many issues all over the world, okay? So their hands are totally full. So let us see, I mean, how things step out, okay?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you very much for today's class, okay? I appreciate it.